I've watched more of this Panorama thing. I noticed how you had someone called Anna on it, and she was going on about, yes, I'm just trying to do my best, we just got to have more houses. And she's like, no, you need to stop the bankers from loaning out gigantic loans, because that is what's pushing up the market. And then you also need to stop people from getting free housing. No one should get free. You've got a false housing economy when I don't know how many people are receiving housing benefit, and I don't know how many of these people are justifiably receiving housing benefit. I understand there are people like my uncle. He is mentally ill. He can't function properly. He cannot work. So I know that there are some people that need to be on housing benefit, otherwise they can't do nothing. But if people are on housing benefit because they realise that if they weren't on housing benefit, they would have to get a job, and their job likely wouldn't cover the mortgage. Well, this isn't a system that you should be approving, or you shouldn't be having housing so expensive that people are forced onto housing benefits solely because they know that if they were working, they wouldn't be able to earn enough money to pay for their rent, and therefore it's better. You can't have that, and this is a housing market false crisis, because that people are not able to earn this kind of money, and they're just taking benefits off the government to try and pay for their rent. And well, because the government are giving them their rent, that this house is free, and it shouldn't be. If these people are from a foreign land, and they shouldn't be in this land, you need to get rid of them. And I think the fact that there are so many people that are getting benefits and yet are foreigners, I feel like this is just evidence that there are a bunch of rich bankers that are literally flooding Europe with these people, while saying, we're offering them free housing to fill up the houses, so that the housing market continuously creeps up, and building more houses, getting rid of the wetlands. And they did actually have quite a large feature about the swans, and a family of swans, and saying that more houses is going to reduce their home and their land. The more houses you have, who is actually going to benefit? Okay, yeah, there'll be people housed in them, but if you're just going to house them with people from Somalia, then yeah, you could easily fill up. There's millions of people in Africa, and you can get all of those, and you can build like a million houses. You can build 1 billion houses in England, and okay, you could say, oh, it creates jobs. The builders are going to get paid for building. They're going to the materials to transport. All of this. You could say that this is building up the economy, because builders need to pay to make bricks. So you've got the brick industry, and you've got the cement industry, and you've got all this. But if you're filling the country up with bad people, with people who don't want to work, people who just want to live off benefits, people who are just going to steal and destroy the economy, so that the other people who have rent to pay can't work because shops are no longer open, or other businesses, okay, yeah, the housing industry you're going to have more brick makers and stuff like that. But if you're building houses for people that aren't smart enough to live in these houses, if you're taking people who live in mud houses, the reason why they live in mud houses is because they don't know how to build to properly brick. But it might not just be that. It might not just be, okay, you can say, well, we can teach them how to do things, but it might not be that. It might be that they don't have the motivation or will, because they're still thinking like an animal. And therefore, if you just bring a bunch of people that are still thinking like animals, and then you bring them into this country, they're still going to think like animals. You can teach them. You can teach an animal how to do tricks. You can teach a dog how to be nice and not to be aggressive. But at the end of the day, it's still a dog, and it might be aggressive. It might start treating a child like a toy because it's still a dog. And it's the same with humans. If you take these dumb humans and teach them stuff, okay, they might have skills, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they want to contribute into society. That doesn't mean that they'll like us. That doesn't mean that they'll see us in the same sort of way. They might still favor their own country and hope to just take money and go back to their own country and develop their own country, rather than and just take from this land. And then to think that, what, we're just going to build more houses? Okay, yeah, the builders would make a couple of thousand. However much it costs 120,000 to build a house, and then these houses are going to be sold on for a lot more. Well, who's making that? I mean, if it's the billionaires that just buy the land, get the houses being made fairly cheaply for 120, and then they sell it on for 500,000 or something. Well, the billionaires are the ones that are actually being benefited the most, because they're the ones who are making the most amount of money, or whoever's buying the land. And the fact that they said that it took 2 years. If you want to build 10 houses, you might have to have a planning permission that takes 2 years to just noticed the light went down, but I don't know how to bring up the light a bit more. But it could take 2 years to even get the planning permission. So why wouldn't you just like? I mean, I don't want any more houses. I don't think there should be any more houses because I don't think it's going to benefit anything. It's not going to benefit anyone except for the billionaires that have huge amounts of money, or just the banks. The only thing it's going to benefit is the banks. The banks are getting richer and richer because they've turned everyone into slaves, and they're now using this slave money, and they now want to use their slave money to buy more houses. And therefore, if you make more houses, okay, the builders might make money out of the housing, but if the majority of people that are in this country are only in this country because they're from a foreign country and are hoping to go back, you're just going to end up, when this housing market crashes, and because there's some bad people, there's some horrible people in this world, and I don't like living with these people. I don't like looking at these people. I don't like knowing these people. I don't like seeing these people. I don't like feeling the energy of some of these people. There's some people that are terrible, and I want them out of this planet. And once they've fucking gone away, houses are going to be empty, and therefore all this building work, all these jobs that you offered, all these houses, all these brick workers, all the stuff that you've built is going to be kind of worthless, because a lot of these houses are going to be empty. I think people in the north of England are going to start coming in to live in the south of England, and maybe people in Sweden or in colder places that don't really, if houses are cheaper in the north, people will go to the north because it's cheaper. I'm liking this because it was really bright before, and now it's, I don't even know, these buttons don't seem to work. It was brighter before. But yeah, people are I think a lot of people from cold countries are going to come more south if the house market drops. But it's annoying that there's probably people who are living with far colder temperatures than they want to, and that they're simply doing it because they were trying to avoid being a slave to the bankers. And the bankers are causing so much problems by creating this false housing market. I guess the only good thing about it is that it gives the bankers a lot of power and control, but I have no idea who these bankers are. I have no idea what they're doing with this power and this money, and there's some really bad people that don't deserve much, but there's some good people as well, and they're just struggling. They're struggling to pay the rent. They're struggling to make ends meet, what the word is, and